Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Friends, let's all study, investigate, and practice the real words of the Buddha. Real words of the Buddha is the sublime Dhamma, which is rare in the world. In order to understand the real words of the Buddha, one has to read the original teachings of the Buddha. Then we can understand what the Buddha really taught, not the later works. Through the later works, we cannot understand what the Buddha exactly said. There are a lot of later compilations, compositions, commentaries, sub-commentaries, sub-commentaries. Through this, it is quite impossible for you to go to the original teachings, for you to read what the Buddha exactly said and understand it as it is. This is why we have to do our own explorations, our own investigations. Otherwise, we cannot expect escape. We cannot expect a liberation. Liberation not the person, but the mind. Our mind is to be liberated, not this body. That is to be understood clearly. In our mind, there are a lot of defilements. We have to understand these defilements and cut them off little by little, moment by moment, bit by bit. We have to cut these defilements, remove these. Only then we can experience the highest bliss of Nibbana. For this purpose, every Thursday from 7 to 8:30, we meet here, New York time, 7 to 8:30, and we discuss these original teachings of the Buddha. Tonight our topic is underlying tendencies. This is the talk number 66. Underlying tendencies are to be understood clearly. This is from a discourse named A Certain Bhikkhu from Connected Discourses of the Buddha, chapter 22, discourse number 35. We are going to discuss tonight two discourses, 35 and 36. So let's understand what these underlying tendencies. Tendencies are the natural or habitual inclinations. They are called underlying tendencies. Why they are called underlying tendencies? They underlie. Under what? Under the mind. Under the mind they lie. They sleep there underneath. That is why they are called underlying. Underlying tendencies. Anusaya, sayati. Sayati means sleep. Anusaya, the Pali term is anusaya. They are underlying, underneath the mind, they are sleeping. Mind means the aggregate. There is a particular aggregate called volitional formation aggregate. Volitional formation aggregate. That is the place where this underlying tendencies are underlying. Anusaya. Anu means again and again in this case. Again and again. Anusaya. Again and again they sleep. They come, we bring this in again and again and we let them sleep. That is what happened. What we bring as underlying tendencies are the thoughts. What type of thoughts? These are called volitional formations. Abhisankhara. Volitional formations of unwholesome things. Unwholesome. Volitional formations of wholesome. Or volitional formations of jhanic results. We bring them in and let them sleep underneath in the aggregate conscious aggregate called volitional formations. Sankhara skandha. Friends, we have to understand that there are different levels of defilements. There are 7 levels of defilements, impurities in our mind. Let's understand the 7. First we have greed, the gross form. From gross to the most subtlest form, we to understand these layers. First we have the gross form, which is greed, hatred and delusion. That is the first level. That is the gross level of our defilements, impurities in the mind. They are the gross level. Then we have the next level, which is the 5 hindrances, which are 5 hindrances. The sensual desire, ill will, laziness and sleepiness, restlessness and worry, and doubt. These are called 5 hindrances. That is the second level, second layer. Then we have imperfection, upakilesa in Pali. Then another level we have blemish. In Pali it is called angana, blemish. Then we have another level which is the fetters. There are fetters through which we are bound to samsara. There are 10 fetters. That is another level. Then we have underlying tendencies, anusaya, underlying tendencies. Finally, the most subtlest form of defilements are called taints. Taints, asava. Those who have cut off these taints become the taints free, taintless. That is in Pali, Khina Sava. Khina Sava are the enlightened ones, Arahants. So the underlying tendencies themselves are to be understood that there are, according to the text, there are 7 kinds of underlying tendencies. Let's understand a little bit about them, at least names. Sensuous greed, then grudge, then speculative opinions, speculative views, then skeptical doubt, conceit, craving for continued existence, and ignorance. These are 7 types of underlying tendencies. We don't want to worry about all these 7. Simply understand underlying tendencies means whatever we bring in to our 6 sense bases, we bring into our mind. What we bring in? We bring in discursive thoughts of sensuality, discursive thoughts of ill will, discursive thoughts of cruelty. Then we bring in volitional formations of wholesome, of unwholesome, and of jhani krisa. These are the things. These are called vitakka. First 3 are called vitakka. Next 3 are called abhisankara, volitional formations. Volitional formations we bring in as causes, and we deposit these causes in our mind. There is the aggregate called volitional formations in which we deposit this, and they are there underlie. From time to time they come to the surface, then we have to suffer. If we can understand whenever they arise, if we can understand and if we can cut them off, we don't want to suffer any longer. That is the nature. So let's understand this discourse, what the Buddha taught in this discourse. This discourse was delivered by the Buddha while the Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi, that place. Then a certain bhikkhu, a certain monk, approached the Blessed One, paid homage to him, sat down to one side and said to him, "Venerable Sir, it would be good if the Blessed One would teach me the Dhamma in brief." That is his request. He wanted to understand the Dhamma in brief, so that having heard the Dhamma from the Blessed One, I might dwell alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute. That is the purpose. So he asked the Buddha, "Please, Bhante, please teach me the Dhamma in brief." That is what we all want. Let's understand Buddha's advice. Then Buddha said, "Bhikkhu, if one has an underlying tendency towards something," we have underlying tendencies. As we have underlying tendencies are underlying, they come from time to time with the support of external stimulus. External stimuli, they come to the surface. That is what it said. One might if one has an underlying tendency towards something, then this translation is incorrect. Not one, not a person, but tendency, underlying tendency. It is reckoned if it comes to the surface, it is reckoned. If we grasp it, it is reckoned. It is counted. It is reckoned in terms of it. If one does not have an underlying tendency towards something, then it is not reckoned in terms of it. It is not reckoned. That is the Buddha's advice. So, what is to be done? We have to understand underlying tendencies whenever it comes to the surface, whenever it arises. We have to understand it and let it go. Not grasp, but let it go. Cut it off. Abandon, dispel that underlying tendency. That is the meaning. Then this Bhante, this bhikkhu said, understood blessed one, understood fortunate one. Then Buddha asked, in what way, bhikkhu, do you understand in detail the meaning of what was stated by me in brief? How did you understand what I said? That's the meaning. Then he said, if, Venerable Sir, one has an underlying tendency towards form, that is the way that underlying tendency is to come to our eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and the mind. So it arises as a form. Then we feel it, we perceive it, then we volitionally form it. That is what is called evaluate. And all these are detected by our consciousness. If, Venerable Sir, one has an underlying tendency towards form, then one is reckoned in terms of it. If one has an underlying tendency towards feeling, then one is reckoned in terms of it. If one has an underlying tendency towards perception, then one is reckoned in terms of it. If one has an underlying tendency towards volitional formations, then one is reckoned in terms of them. If one has an underlying tendency towards consciousness, then one is reckoned in terms of it. So if we grasp it, it is reckoned. That is the meaning. It is counted. If we do not reckon, if we do not grasp it, we let it go. It is not counted. It is not reckoned. That is the meaning. If, Venerable Sir, one does not have an underlying tendency towards form, if one grasps it, it is counted. Now what happened? If one does not have an underlying tendency towards form, then one is not reckoned. We should not reckon. We should not count it. That is the meaning. Reckon in terms of it. If one does not have an underlying tendency towards feeling, towards perception, towards volitional formation, towards consciousness, then one is not reckoned in terms of it. It is in such a way, Venerable Sir, that I understand in details the meaning of what was stated by the Blessed One in brief. Then Buddha said, good, bhikkhu. It is good that you understand in detail the meaning of what was stated by me in brief. If bhikkhu, one has an underlying tendency towards form, that's the same thing, Buddha repeated the same thing there. Then what happened? Then that bhikkhu, having delighted and rejoiced in the Blessed One's statement, rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Blessed One, keeping him on his right, he departed. Then, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, that bhikkhu, by realizing it for himself with direct knowledge, in this very life, entered and dwelt in that unsurpassed goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the household life into homelessness. He directly knew destroy is birth. The holy life has been lived. He realized what had to be done has been done. There is no more for this state of being. And that bhikkhu became one of the arahants. That is the result. The way to practice is not mere concentration, not hours and hours sitting on the cushion and practice concentration, jhana. That is not what the Buddha said. Buddha's technique is different. That mind science is to understand the six sense bases, the Dhamma within the six sense bases, not through this body, not through the body, but mind. This teaching, this technique is based on the mind. So as the result, that bhikkhu became one of the arahants. Now let's understand the second discourse, where again another bhikkhu, another monk, went to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, it would be good if the Blessed One would teach me the Dhamma in brief. That's the same. So that having heard the Dhamma from the Blessed One, I might dwell alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute. Then the Buddha said, Bhikkhu, if one has an underlying tendency towards something, when we see the object, when we hear the object, when we smell the object, when we taste the object, when we have tangible, and then when we think of a certain thing, we have underlying tendencies. Underlying tendencies means they are underlie within us. With the support of that external stimuli, whatever, they pop up. We remind things. We remind certain things. Yeah? We cling to that thing. That is what happened. Or with the support of external things, we think of that and then we cling to that. We grasp things. Or we have repulsion. We don't like. We should come to the state of equanimous mind. The Buddha said to this bhikkhu, this Bhante, the Buddha said, if one has an underlying tendency towards something, then it is measured. In accordance with it. If one is measured in accordance with something, then it is reckoned. It is measured. If we take something in, it is counted. Just like you use a piggy bank. You put money one by one, dollar by dollar. You put into the piggy bank a till. Then you put one by one. Then it is later on you can count it. Or just like that, we bring things in one by one to the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. Then we deposit. What do you deposit? You deposit causes. Once you have deposited causes, they have their effect. They have results. Results are to be reaped. Where? Not this life. Once you deposit these causes, you have to reap their results, the effects, cause and effect. Buddhism is causality, cause and effect. So you have to reap the results in next birth, another birth. In accordance with the cause, you have to reap the results. You leave behind things as causes. Then that is what is called, as you have attachment, it is because of your craving you have attachment. Attachment is upadana. Upadana pacha what? Upadana pacha bhava. Dependent on attachment, existence comes to be. Upadana pacha bhava. Existence, because it is because of existence, birth comes to be. Like that. That is what happens. So the Buddha said this: if you have underlying tendencies towards something, then it is measured. Earlier it said it is reckoned, the first one. Here the Buddha said it is measured in accordance with it. Once it is measured in accordance with that, then it is reckoned. Then it is reckoned. If one does not have an underlying tendency towards something, then one is not measured. It is not measured then. In accordance with that, then it is not measured. If it is not measured in accordance with that, then one is not reckoned in terms of it. That is the discourse. Then the same, that Bhikkhu also said that, oh Bhante, I understood. Then the Buddha asked, how did you understand in details what I said? Then he repeated the same thing. He said that this is the way that I understood. So after that, he rose from his seat and, respecting the Buddha, he went out. As he went out, he practiced being ardent, resolute. He practiced, and finally he himself became one of the arahants. That's the way to practice. So friends, this is the way to understand. We have to understand this, whatever comes to our mind through the six sense bases, we have to understand this as discursive thoughts of sensuality, discursive thoughts of ill will, discursive thoughts of cruelty. These are the discursive thoughts. These are to be understood, and whenever they arise, we should not welcome them. We should dispel We should abandon, expel, exterminate, obliterate whenever possible. That is the way to cut off these defilements. As long as we have these defilements, we have to suffer. That is why the Buddha said, cut off this and then experience the bliss. Whenever they arise as five aggregates. If we grasp these five aggregates, that is what is called suffering. If we do not grasp this, then we have no craving. We grasp this because of our craving, desire, delight, lust. We grasp this. If we do not grasp this, we cease it. That is the cessation. Cessation of what? Cessation of five aggregates. Cessation of dukkha, for which there is the path. The path is the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path, in this case, we to understand, it's the calmness, it is the virtue, it is the concentration, it's wisdom. Virtue, concentration, and wisdom in the eye, in the ear, in the nose, in the tongue, in the body, and in the mind. With that we can experience this real bliss, real happiness, real bliss of Nibbana. May we all experience that real peace, real happiness of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.